Hi, Bill Federer here. We're going to look at Constitution Day. The most common form of government in world history is kings. Nimrod, Pharaoh, Caesar, Kaiser, Sultan, Tsar. It's top down. They rule through fear. You do what the king says or he kills you. A republic is where you take care of your family and your farm and you have someone in your place that goes to the market every day. They are your representative. One of the interesting plaques that is in New England is one regarding Thomas Hooker, and it says Thomas Hooker's congregation established the form of government upon which the present Constitution of the United States is modeled. Everybody's involved in church, everybody's involved in the community, everybody's involved in the country. And so they had one building called the Meeting House. That's where the pastor would teach the Bible. That's where they would do their city business. The word synagogue means meeting house. That's where the rabbi would teach the law. That's where they would gather together and do their city business. When the revolution starts, the British send over a military governor, Thomas Gage, and he outlaws meeting houses. He says democracy is too prevalent in America. He says you just follow government mandates. And so we see America is a switch from a top-down government, from a king who rules through fear, to a bottom-up form of government where it's we the people. But it's people in covenant with each other. It's like a triangle. You get blessings from God. You voluntarily share them with your neighbor because you're doing it as unto God. So the word federal is Latin for covenant. It's where we, the people, can rule ourselves without a king. I'm one of 11 children. I have 5 brothers and 5 sisters. And way back when I was a child, my mom had made a pan of brownies. And other kids ate them all up. There's one left in the pan. And my little brother and I come in from playing and we're about to fight over it. And my mom says, one of you cuts it and the other gets to pick the first piece. Now, the one cutting it doesn't know which piece they're going to get yet. So they want to cut it exactly what? Equal. I sort of joke that it works unless you did it with my little brother because he spit on him and got both pieces. And of course, I punched him. But if you can imagine a big brownie, 3 hungry boys, you give the first one a responsibility. He is to trace out on the brownie where it's going to be cut. He doesn't know which piece he's going to get yet, so he's going to try to trace those 3 pieces exactly equal. Second one's job is to take the knife and actually execute it and cut it. He doesn't know which piece he's going to get yet, so he's going to cut them exactly equal. And the third one's job is to judge and see who gets which piece. So you have the legislative branch laying out the laws, the executive branch signing it into law, and the judicial branch judging the law. It's a stroke of genius. Greedy, hungry tummies causing them to be honest. It would be like a pastor giving a Sunday school assignment. Design a system of government where sinners keep other sinners from sinning. That's what our Constitution is. Selfish, greedy people keeping other selfish, greedy people from becoming selfish and greedy. And it works because each branch selfishly wants to build itself. And so the executive branch will always be trying to take power away from the legislative and judicial. The judicial branch will always be trying to take power from the executive and the legislative. And the legislative will always try to take power from the executive and the judicial. So greed checks greed, ambition checks ambition. It worked. In the same period of time, America's had one form of government with our Constitution. France has gone through dozens of different republics, and Mexico's gone through like 50 different forms of government. In the same period of time, we've had only one. So it's worked. And now, one of the things I bring out about the Constitution is it is like a genetically engineered seed. And it took thousands of years of brilliant people to come up with this form of government where you pit selfishness against each other. But what do you do with seeds? You plant them in soil. Question: does the type of soil you plant the seed in have any relation to the type of harvest you're going to get? Well, yes. If you take the best genetically engineered seed and you plant it in a sandy beach or in a gravel parking lot or in a nice fertile soil, will there be a difference in the harvest? Well, yes. And so you take this Constitution, you plant it in a Islamic country, like when Saddam Hussein was overthrown and we sent representatives over to Iraq and we helped them set up a constitution. In one election cycle, they voted in Sharia law, where it's the death penalty to leave Islam and you can beat your wife. And we scratch our heads thinking, how come their response, their harvest was different than ours in America? Well, you planted the seed in an Islamic soil And Islam does not have the concept of equality. Women are not equal to men. Infidels are not equal to believing Muslims. And then we have the Berlin Wall fall down, and we have people from America going over to these former Soviet states and helping them to set up constitutions. And in one generation, they get taken over by the black market, the mafia, the organized crime. And we're scratching our heads thinking, why did this constitution that was nearly identical to ours produce a different harvest? Well, you planted it in a country where the soil had 70 years of atheism plowed into it. And atheism says this life is all there is, do whatever you can to get ahead. When our founders took this constitution, it was planted in a country that was 98% Christian. Every colony was founded by a different denomination. Virginia was Anglican, Massachusetts was Puritan, Rhode Island was Baptist, Maryland was Catholic, Pennsylvania was Quaker, Connecticut and New Hampshire were Congregationalists, New York was Dutch Reformed, Delaware and New Jersey were originally Swedish Lutheran. Of course, they didn't get along, but then they had to work together against the King of England. After the Revolution, their attitude was, we may not always agree, but you were willing to fight for my freedom. I need to let you practice your faith. And so at the time of the founding, 98% of the country was Protestant, 1% Catholic. Catholics were only allowed in 2, maybe 3 states, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and a little bit New York. And there were only 0.1% Jews in America at the time of the founding. Only 7 synagogues in the entire country. So there's 3 million people, 30,000 Catholics, and 3,000 Jews. So it's a predominantly Protestant country, but all of them were Judeo-Christian, with this concept that there is a God, that we are made in his image. He is not a respecter of persons in judgment. We're all equal. And so in America, we planted this genetically engineered seed in a soil that was Judeo-Christian, and it produced the most abundant harvest of freedom and individual opportunity that the world has ever seen. So the Constitution is a way to take the power of a king and separate it. It's like taking the Tower of Babel and scattering it. The Constitution, in a sense, is just a way to prevent a president from ruling through mandates and executive orders. Let me say that again. The Constitution is a way to prevent a president from ruling through mandates and executive orders. And so they wanted to keep from being one man who gives an order and a mandate, and everybody in the country has to obey. They took the power of one man ruling, they broke it into 3 branches. Legislative branch, where you set out the laws, executive branch signing it and enacting it into law, and the judicial branch judging the law. It's a stroke of genius. Signer of the Constitution, Gouverneur Morris, said, "The magistrate is not the king, the people are the king." Another quote from Chief Justice John Jay, "The people are the sovereign of this country." Another quote from signer of the Constitution, James Wilson, "Sovereignty resides in the people. They have not parted with it." Abraham Lincoln said, "The people of these United States are the rightful masters of Congresses and courts." So Romans 13, it says every person must be subject to the governing authority. Well, in Europe, the governing authority was the king. But in America, who's the ultimate governing authority? It's we, the people. We're the king. The politicians are our servants. You hire them, you fire them, you vote them in, you vote them out. So when we pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which it stands, we're basically pledging allegiance to us being in charge of ourselves. And so when somebody protests the flag, what they're saying is, I don't want to be the king anymore. I protest this system where I participate in ruling myself. Your life, your liberty, your property, you decide what you want to do with your life. You are a king of your life with a little k, and all of us are king citizens of the country with a little k, and you have the voluntary opportunity of surrendering your life to Jesus, the King of Kings.